I think leaders need to listen a little bit more than we used to listen to those young people, and we need to coach a little bit more than we used to coach.
Yes.
If we're
Uh,
willing to do that, I think we've got something. And who knows what the limit is.
Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of Your Best Day Yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer at the Center for Victory. We have a very special guest today. I'm very fortunate to get connected with this young man.
Thank you for
uh,
saying young
yeah,
man, Eric.
yeah.
I appreciate that.
Tim Elmore, he is the founder of Growing Leaders, an Atlanta-based nonprofit organization created to develop emerging leaders. And I'm going to let him get into it because what he has done, he has a book coming out, folks, and I want you to look it up. And it's actually called "The Future Begins with Z: 9 Strategies to Lead Generation Z as They Upset the Workplace." And we're going to be unpacking that today, but it's coming out very soon. Tim, I think you said it. The release is November 4th.
Yep, that's it.
Correct. Okay.
Yep.
So want you to get that picked up. But today's going to be a little teaser. And if we do this right, maybe Tim will come back on the show and join us again and talk more about this because I have really believed in this, Tim. And I am thankful that Mr. Jeff Hancher put us together because this is something that's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Little
Yeah.
selfish as well because I have kids that are now in the workforce and they've both been in 3 years.
Okay. All right.
And some of these things I think that you're going to share today, I've told them.
Yeah.
So we're going to dig into it. But first, welcome and tell us all the background stuff. Like, how'd you get started in all this?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I began believing in the emerging generation when I was a part of the emerging generation. I began in the classroom and was teaching, and I thought, what a great place to invest your life when the humans in front of you are young and moldable and shapeable and idealistic and ready to change the world, that sort of thing. But 4 years into that start, I went on staff with Dr. John Maxwell. And John's this leadership guru that's written a number of best-selling books on leadership.
Mhm.
So my love of the next generation and my love of leadership got married in the 80s and 90s. And so in 2003, I started this nonprofit called Growing Leaders because I really wanted to focus on how do we develop these young influencers when they're still young and
Mhm.
they haven't made the mistakes perhaps that I made or you made or whatever. And so anyway, all that to say, guys, since the 80s, I had my eye on, the boomers and then the Gen Xers and then the millennials came through. And now it's Generation Z that are the new kids on the block, starting their jobs and careers and sometimes feeling like there's a bit of a gap between the older folks that are in
Yeah.
charge and this younger generation. So anyway, that's my story.
All right. Well, a lot's been written about this younger generation. What what makes your book a little bit different and maybe perhaps timelier?
Yeah, well, most of what I hear from the data sets that I read are that managers are finding Generation Z the hardest generation to manage. 3 out of 4 supervisors or leaders will say Gen Z is the toughest generation to manage. 30% of them avoid hiring them altogether. And then another 3 out of 10 say, I fired them within the first week. So I'm thinking to myself, this is not a way forward. That we can't bypass this new generation and hope to God for the next one. So as I began to do both quantitative data and qualitative data, so I did surveys of thousands, and then I did focus groups with about 10 or 12 at a time. I began to really empathize with Gen Z and began to believe in them even more deeply than I did before. So this book is different in that it notes the challenge of how different they are, but it also says, but there's something magic. Here's what I say early in the book. There's something tragic and magic going on in our culture. So Eric, the opening story really kind of illustrates what I see happening so often. I introduced the readers to a young man that has been a friend of mine since high school. His name is Colin Webb. He graduated high school with really good grades, went off to MIT and graduated with good grades. So you can imagine he had a lot of job offers when he got done with college. So he decided to take one in Detroit, Michigan at the big three, General Motors. He was going to work for one of the automakers there, went to work for the smart car division, and within a few weeks of his entry, he started seeing things that could be improved, like professional development could be better. This system over here could be better. So he started a little list and he's very respectful, but he respectfully went to his supervisor and said, "Hey, I think we can make some things better." But the response he got was less than stellar. His supervisor said, "Hey, just be quiet, keep your head down, keep your nose to the grindstone, and do your work." So excuse me, Eric. So Colin said, "Well, all right, sir," and he goes back, but he wasn't done yet. So he ends up writing an email to the CEO of General Motors, Mary Barra, and says, "I've got these ideas." She replies back and says, "These are great ideas. Let me take them to our executive team." So she takes them to the executive team and they all agree. These are good ideas. But as the ideas went down the organizational chart, back down to the middle managers and the supervisors that oversaw him, they died on the vine again.
Mm.
It was as if in fact, his supervisor actually said to him, "You need to be around here 8 years before you get to, lead anything."
Wow.
So before the year was out, Eric quit his job at GM, has since started three companies, sold one of them. He's doing quite well. But I can't help but think when I think about this story, they missed out on a sharp young Gen Zer that just was different and they didn't like the difference.
Mhm.
So now I grant it, I'm older and I'll go, of course, these young whippersnappers coming in think they have better ideas, but so did we back in the day. So I think the answer is in the middle. And this book is all about how do we not lose them and how do we pull out the very best in these very different young people that join our teams.
Yeah, they are very different, and I do like working with them. I shared with you before we got on here. I do have that. I've
Yeah.
been privileged
Yeah.
with that over the years of working with the millennials, and now, yeah, I actually just got done today. We just had a group today, and there's one young gentleman in there, and he's been working for the company since he was 16. He's 20 years
Wow.
old now,
Huh. Yeah.
and one's just turning 23, and I'm like, wow. And my kids are 24 and 25, and they've been in the workforce both 3 years. They're
Yeah.
pretty motivated. These kids are pretty motivated. There is one young gentleman in that group that isn't quite as motivated as them, and I
Yeah.
bring that up for you to shed some guidance
Yeah.
on that.
Yeah.
Like, how do you keep them? They're not motivated, they don't do this, they don't do that. I know I don't
Every,
see that
yeah.
in my
Yeah.
my kids. I don't see that in some of those, but I do see it. I mean, and it's a big complaint in a lot of the companies that
Yeah. That you
that
talk
we
to.
interact
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Yeah. No doubt about it. Here's the best nutshell I can give you on the dilemma that we face in today's workplace. I call it the Peter Pan paradox. Okay. So I think everybody listening remembers the story of Peter Pan. Here's this guy that flies through the air. We don't know how he quite does that, sprinkles pixie dust on everything, and just magical things happen. The other side of the same coin, though, is he wants to stay in Neverland, where you never have to really grow up.
Hmm.
There's that magic and tragic thing, okay? So
Yeah.
here's my premise. The age of authority seems to be going down, meaning young people are coming in with some smarts that we don't have. They seem to be intuitive on where culture's going. They're smart as a whip on AI and smart technology, and they know tomorrow's consumer because they are that.
Hmm.
But at the same time, they're socially and emotionally not maturing at the same rates as previous generations did at their age. So you see the magic and tragic thing going on. You can see that's extra frustrating. So, bottom line, if you're a leader listening right now, I think leaders need to listen a little bit more than we used to listen to those young people, and we need to coach a little bit more than we used to coach.
Yes.
If we're
Uh,
willing to do that, I think we've got something. And who knows what the limit is.
Yeah, and I asked you what I was asking a question from my purview. Uh,
Yeah.
it would be interesting to get your purview also, and anything else that hiring managers and
Yeah.
employers can't seem to overcome
Yeah. Yeah.
with this generation.
Part of it is based on our stereotypes. I think every one of us, our age, Eric, or older, has heard some story about kids today, that sort of thing. They're lazy and entitled and they don't really want to work and so forth and so on. So I have an entire chapter in the book where I kind of do some myth busters. Here's a good example, a couple of them really good examples, I think. One is a lot of times because they're different, we assume they really don't want to work hard. They leave right at 5 as soon as they can get out of there. And it really looks like they're not willing to finish tasks and work hard. So I brought this up in my focus groups. And one young lady, after she heard me bring it up, and your boss thinks you don't really want to work, she said, can I tell you why I leave right at 5? I said, sure. She said, because I have to rush right over to a second job. I don't make enough money to, pay the bills on my first
Hmm.
job. And then after that second job, I rush over to take care of my mother who has stage 4 cancer. So this stereotype was completely, at least in her situation,
Yeah.
wrongly based. And it would have been good for her boss to talk to her and just find out what's going on. Do you enjoy this job? Another one I hear though is they don't trust authority. And Eric, the fact of the matter is they do have a difficult time trusting established authorities like the government, education,
Hmm.
et cetera, et cetera. Understandably, because sometimes those knuckleheads in charge didn't do something
Yeah.
right. Let's be honest. But here's what we did find in our research. They do trust older generations that they come to know. So they may not trust the company, corporate America, but if they get to know well that supervisor and they find out that supervisor actually cares about them, they'll go to the mat for them. But we have to build that relationship. So anyway, I would just say that chapter is golden. And it was golden for me as I wrote it because I thought I need to dismantle some of these stereotypes in my head about Gen Z. They're not all true for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's always truth in a little bit of truth in
Yes.
in
Yeah.
everything, but if you just hang on to that truth, you're not going to have a company anymore because
Right.
you're going to run out of people. Like,
That's right. Yeah. Well, one thing I love to say is we don't know a lot about the future, but we know one thing. Generation Z is going to be there.
yeah.
We're probably not. So now's our chance to invest in the inevitable, which is this new generation. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've really done like over the past, I would say it's been 7 or 8 years. We've really ramped up our leadership cohorts
Good, good, good,
for
good.
young people. And as I said today, I just at the end of the class today, I just actually told them, I said, I know I harp on this all the time, but I want you all in this room to see yourself as a leader.
Wow. Good, good,
You
good.
are in this room
Yeah.
because somebody believed you had something,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I
I
love
want
that.
you to take that. Right.
Yeah.
That goes to your point about the coaching, right? They're not getting a lot of things, and some of it's our fault.
Yeah. I
We've been
think
too
so.
busy not to coach them.
I think you're right. We get busy just doing the job rather than getting ready the next gen to do the job. One of our core values, I think, is essential when it comes to us relating to Gen Z. The value is begin with belief. Begin with belief. I think we sometimes begin with suspicion that they're probably not going to work out. They're probably not going to stay but a year and a half. Why should I invest in them? Blah, blah, blah. But when I begin with belief, I begin with respect for them, even before they've earned it, maybe. I begin with, I've hired you for a reason. I think you've got some talent that we could use. And when I do that, Eric, it comes right back to me. They
Yeah.
believe in their boss, they believe and respect the coaching. But I think we as leaders need to start it and just say, I'm going to hope and I'm going to believe, and then expect them to live up to my expectations.
Yeah. That's great advice. And
Yeah,
that's sometimes hard to do,
yeah,
right?
it is.
But I believe in it wholeheartedly. I mean, we just got back from Honduras, uh, yeah, late Sunday night into Monday morning, and
Yeah,
we did a kind of a seminar, short seminar for some of the younger folks down there.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because there's the translation issue too, right? I'm
Yeah.
working through a
Right.
translator,
Yeah.
and I actually asked them how long they wanted it to go, and they said longer.
Oh, wow.
All of them, like at
Yeah.
one time, as soon as the interpreter
Yeah.
got those
Got that
words
out.
out, they was in unison, and I was like, oh, okay, there's something here when people
Yes. Yeah.
invest in you and they're looking for that connection.
Yeah.
uh, are there well, let me start with the one about the reputation of them being job hoppers.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What myth, truth?
Yeah.
How do we overcome that?
So I do believe that data shows they do hop from job to job, but it's not necessarily because they want to. They often feel like this job doesn't allow me to grow. So the job I got, there's kind of a ceiling for me. So professional development and personal development are huge to Gen Z,
Yes, yes,
offer me a
yes,
place
yes.
to grow. Secondly, they are capable of being loyal, but they want someone to be loyal to.
Boy,
So,
say that again.
okay. They
Say
do.
that again for everybody today
Yeah.
here.
They do want to be loyal. They don't plan to go. They don't plan to
Right.
go, man, I hope I'm just here 1 year, like any more than you get married and hope this only lasts 1 year, you know? They want it to work out, but they want someone to be loyal to. So here's a good illustration of that. When we take the Gen Zers on our team right now, I love kindling a relationship with them. And I'm often like the dad figure in their life. You know, we laugh about bad dad jokes and everything else in the office. And I'm fine with being, fun poked at me or whatever. But we build this bond, and the loyalty kind of works both ways.
Yeah.
So here's what I think happens. They have visibility on some things that I don't, and vice versa. I think
Hmm.
I can see some timeless nuggets and principles that they don't know at 21 years old. But I want to tell you the story of Tony because it illustrates what happens too often. Tony was in his senior year at college and he gets a part-time job at a local paint store. Actually, it was a national brand paint store that you would recognize. Well, also that senior year, he gets on TikTok. Okay. So, two things going on, not correlated, but just happened to go on at the same time. Well, after his shifts at the paint store, he started recording himself mixing blueberries with white paint and mixing it up and making a vivid shade of blue. And then he would post it on TikTok. Well, within a semester's time, his account goes viral. I
Yeah.
mean, by the time he has 1.4 million
Wow.
followers, 37 million views, he realizes, oh my gosh, I may have something here. I need to take this to the marketing executives, and maybe we can pick up
Hmm.
another 1.5 million customers. So Tony, 21 years old, puts this little slide deck together, asks to meet with the executive team to show them what he's done. But Tony doesn't get one person willing to chat with him, doesn't get
Wow.
one set of eyeballs to look at his slide deck. Tony did get something he didn't expect. He got fired. Yeah, he gets let go because those older leaders were just sure this young man was stealing the paint,
Oh,
probably doing
golly.
this on company time, probably distracting to the customers. So get this, Eric.
Hmm.
Tony graduates, he's fired, moves from Ohio to Florida, now has, I just looked, 2.3 million followers on social media, and he started his own paint store. Is that not an irony? Irony. So there's probably lots of this story we don't understand, but here's one thing I do understand. That paint store missed out by
Yeah.
not listening. Now, does he need to learn? Of course he needs to learn. That's not the point. We weren't
Hmm.
mature when we started our career. But if we'll lean in and say, they see the future better than I do. And so even though they have social and emotional intelligence that needs to be developed right now,
Yes,
some
yes.
interpersonal skills, I need to be listening. So that means I need to check my ego and logo at the door and
Mhm.
just be a human with them and build that relationship with them. If we do, the sky is the limit. I actually believe that.
That is good advice. I appreciate that. I appreciate everything you're saying so far. Again, folks, before we get into some more questions, the book is The Future Begins with Z, 9 strategies to lead Generation Z as they upset the workplace. Comes out November 4th. You can pre-order it, can't you, Tim?
Yes, you
Can you
sure can
pre-order?
right now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, getting back to some of these questions, how do leaders provide feedback to what we would perceive as like,
Yeah.
and I've been guilty of it, man, because I
Yeah,
can
me
like
too. Me
a
too.
lot of times, I didn't get the nickname growing up Hammer sometimes because I see everything as a nail,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
that's
That's
the only tool I could use, and like that was kind of my leadership style at the
yes.
beginning. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I shouldn't be doing it with anybody, but
Yeah.
let alone the young
Yeah,
generation.
yeah, no doubt. You're very wise, Eric, and I relate to what you're saying. Sometimes we see such um, lack of experience in, and they're asking for the world. I just talked to one HR guy that's the young job candidate, female. She said, "Well, I should get paid some bonuses because I have to come into the office some days during the week rather than do all my work from home." And he had to explain, "Oh no, working from home is the bonus. Going to the office is actually normal, you know?" So they just, she's a post-pandemic career entry level person. She didn't know. So we need to be patient and gracious and call out some of the maybe, I don't know, irresponsible demands they might have and say, here's the normal. But I actually have an acronym. This book is about 9 strategies. And Eric, I have a short, quick handle for every one of these strategies that a leader can read it and go, here's an acronym I can use. So the acronym on this feedback that needs to be harsh and hard is the word a leg. So you know how forever we've said this is the leg you got to stand on, you know? So it's ALEG. The letter A reminds me as I go to this young teammate that may be a little fragile, I need to ask questions, not tell them what they've done wrong. In other words, you got to connect before you correct. That's the best advice I can give you.
Yes,
So when I ask them questions about their thought process or how they came to that conclusion or why they did that thing, it makes them feel valued. Isn't it true? When somebody asks you questions about yourself, you feel
absolutely.
valued. You know,
Absolutely.
the letter L tells me to listen well. I think it does very little good to ask questions if you're not willing to do the work to actually listen to what they say. And when I listen, they feel heard, which, by the way, in my research, the number one item they look for on a new job is I want to have a voice. I want to be heard from day one, by the way.
Yeah.
And by the way, one other tidbit Gen Z said to me they make up their mind on whether they're going to stay on day one, which isn't fair. I mean, you might have an accidental bad day one and they're done, you know. So just make their first week unforgettable. Bosses
Mhm.
listening, make their first week unforgettable. The letter E. So ask, they feel valued. Listen, they feel heard. The letter E is empathize. And if we'll empathize, they'll feel understood. So, Eric, I had to learn as an older male, I had to learn to say, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Or I bet that made you feel awful when that happened. Or I didn't realize, tell me more. But something to let them know, all right, he gets me. He gets me. And
Mhm.
when I've done those first 3 steps, I think I've earned my right to do letter G, which is what I wanted to do from in the first place, to guide them. But instead of rushing right to offering the guidance and the correction, now I've earned my right to do that through a bridge, not a badge. And I often want to lean on my badge. I'm the CEO here. I'm the supervisor. We don't need to tell them that. We need to build a relationship. And if we
Uh,
connect before we correct, I think we'll win them at the heart level.
yeah. I do believe you're right. It's funny. I was laughing because my daughter came to work for us last year. She was a teacher for a couple of years, and then I was always waiting for her to come. Like I wanted her here, but like
Yes,
to
yes,
go out and
yes,
really experience what it was, and
yes.
then come back in, and she's
Yeah.
just crushing it right now. Like
Wow, that's cool.
what
Yeah.
she does. But I'm always reminded, and she'll remind me every once in a while still. But I remember vividly the first time she said it to me, and I said something. I corrected somebody. She's like, "Dad, you got to be nice," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"That was my nice." And she's like, "No, Dad, my
Yeah.
nice." And I'm
Yeah.
like,
That's right.
"Gotcha, gotcha."
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that the truth, though, Eric? I'm telling you, back in when I began my career, you didn't have to be not now. Maybe you should be, but you didn't have
Yeah.
to be. In fact, here's the mantra of most bosses when I started my careers: "Hey, leave your personal problems at home.
Yes.
Come
Yep.
here to get your work done." Well, today it's bring your whole self to work, and that might be emotions and who knows what it is. And so I think, well, I just spoke to a CEO that said, my gosh, Tim, I feel like I need to be both the CEO and the cheerleader and the counselor and the therapist and the, motivational speaker. And it's true, it is more complex to be a leader today. But I put a phrase at the beginning of this book that I say to myself every day. You're going to love this, Eric. Here it is. Generation Z is the sandpaper on my leadership I did not know I needed. Isn't that good? Gen
It's
Z is
very,
the sandpaper that's polishing me up that I didn't know I needed. They are going to make us better leaders because
yeah.
it's like your daughter, Dad, be my nice, not your nice.
Yeah.
That's informative because the day is different than when we started.
Yeah, and like I said, I have a tendency to
Me too. I do
see
too.
everything as a nail.
That's right. And just bang it. That's
Yeah.
right. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I do want your feedback though,
Okay.
Tim, because I've been a licensed psychotherapist since '98. So I've been
Okay.
doing it for a long time. That's how I
Uh-huh.
got started, and then I moved into companies
Okay.
doing
Gotcha.
the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But I've seen this mental health
Yeah.
issue become very problematic for this age. I
Yeah.
have my thoughts.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, and what can leaders do
Yeah.
to assist?
I'm sure you have wiser things to say than me with your background, Eric, but I try to give some maybe handles that a typical leader could do that
Hmm.
is a
Yes.
therapist or a psychologist. I think there's two sides to the coin. So the one side is we do, I believe, need to empathize with maybe the mental health challenges they might be having because I don't understand them. So I need to say, listen, I know the day we're living in is different. Some of them come in just overwhelmed with an amount of data coming at them from a smartphone,
Yeah.
anxious because it's too much. So we need to know they're growing up in a different day than we did.
Yes.
If indeed it's truly an experience they're having of ongoing or chronic anxiety or panic attacks or even depression, I think they need to know my leader, my supervisor really cares. It's not just about the revenue and the clock in, clock out stuff. So I think we need to make sure they have margin in their day. In other words, sometimes our days are so crowded, so thick with
Cool.
activity, we just need margin and some space and some quiet. So I think we can check with them on that. Another one I think is movement. I don't know how
Yes.
your job is, but we're a very sedate generation sitting in front of a computer when we need to get up off our butt, pardon me, and move around. So I don't know what that means. Maybe it's take a walk around. We have a group that takes a walk around our building 4 times before they come back in, and it wakes them up in the afternoon and gets them going. I just took a walk with that group the other day. So movement is a fundamental thing that helps us. Another one, I'm going to use the word management, and you can speak to this. Part of it is I need to manage my anxiety. And let me tell you what I mean by this. I heard Arthur Brooks say this, and I thought, man, he's so smart. He's a Harvard prof.
Yeah.
Some of it is telling that Gen Zer, hey, listen, we all have a little anxiety. This is the world. The world's stressful. So don't think you have some disorder automatically that needs medication. It might, but maybe it's just you building a little bit of grit in your life, sweetheart. And I'm sure as a dad, you've had to say that once or twice to your own kiddos.
Hmm.
I did too. So let's not underestimate the fact that maybe it helps as a boss to say, listen, I'm a little anxious too, and I just know if I need some accountability or support, I'll get that, but I need to know this is normal for 21st century living. But I want you to say something. What would you say with your past in the world of psychology?
Yeah, it's a great question. Some of it I think has been problematic just because of the stories we've told to this generation.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's just that simple. And then you have that iPhone in front of you or whatever it might be,
yes, yeah,
and it just creates a bigger story.
yeah, yeah,
And then they start telling it at work. And if
yeah.
nobody intervenes,
It's bigger
uh,
and bigger and bigger.
yeah,
Yeah.
just talk sometimes you just talk about it. I mean, one of the things that and my daughter tells this story uh quite well. But I years ago I told her, I mean, there's not any difference really in your brain between anxiety and excitement.
Yes. It's just going different directions. You're
Yeah.
exactly right. Yeah.
And there was, I can't remember what book it was in, but they were telling the story about Michael Phelps, like,
Yeah.
and how he would get ready for,
Yeah.
to compete. And it was like, "Are you not feeling anxious?" He's like, "No, I'm feeling excited."
Yeah.
Because,
Same energy. So I tell young professionals this. I say, don't say I'm nervous. Say I'm excited.
yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up. In fact, you just triggered another thought in my mind. I did a book a few years ago, post 2020, right at the end of 2020, and I talk about PTSD, which some
Hmm.
actually suffer from,
Yes.
but I also talk about PTG, which fewer people know about. So, most of us, average American people, assume if you go through some trauma, you're probably going to have some level of post traumatic stress disorder.
Hmm.
But far more people end up with PTG, which is post traumatic growth.
Hmm.
And the way that happens is you go through trauma, you might experience a little bit of PTSD, but here's the difference, Eric. Someone comes alongside you, maybe someone like you with who's a bit of a counselor, who actually helps you see the silver lining and the dark cloud. It's not in denial. It's not saying you don't have
Hmm.
stress. That's not real. I do feel with you, but look at what might have come. Maybe it has made you stronger. I love post traumatic growth. I love the possibility that I might be stronger. And I know this is cliche, but maybe Gen Z needs a supervisor that listens to them and guides them and says, I bet you're going to grow from this, and then
Yeah.
offers some possibilities.
Yeah. And again, I go back to, most of us, even if, like, it's the connection piece. Like,
Yes,
we were
it is.
part of a
Yeah.
tribe. I remember I didn't have many conversations with my grandfathers, but there were lessons, there were nuggets in there
Yes.
that I
Yeah.
knew they cared.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
had more conversations with both of my grandmothers.
How about that? Yeah.
And I think we've separated from that because we're not
Yeah.
near them. I was near them.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
probably, I saw them, both sides, every week.
Yeah. Isn't that
Every
cool
week.
that you had that experience? You're a rare bird because I think we're such a mobile society now. Maybe
Yeah.
be living, 3 states away. But what I love is in today's world, that older generation brings some timeless insights like your grandparents did. But the younger generation often brings timely
Yeah.
intuition. And if we could practice reverse mentoring, where both sides are mentoring each other,
Absolutely.
powerful is that? So I do that. Andrew on our team is 30 years younger than me. Cam is 40 years younger than me. And we're mentoring each other. And it is so glorious. But again, got to swallow your ego and just
Yeah.
let it happen. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's cool.
Yeah. That's good stuff. As you were saying that, we were in Honduras. I was meeting with a young lady. She's only 28 years old, and she's in this village. She's the first, like, real doctor
Yes,
with a
yes.
real clinic.
Yeah,
And she was nervous. And again, I didn't. There was a language barrier.
yeah.
But we were talking about some things, and I was listening to her. We were feeding back into there. There was another business owner there with me that has even more experience than I do, and we were just feeding back into her, and you could tell just the emotion in her face and how appreciative she was.
Wow, wow.
And before we got to the next stop of where we were going, which wasn't very far away, she had already penned us both messages and sent it to us, just, thank you, thank you, thank you.
How about that?
Right.
That's
And she
so
wants to grow. She wants to
yes,
do
yes.
something different.
Yeah, yeah,
Even there, like, which is hard to do there. Like,
yeah,
it's not as
yeah.
hard to do here, but
The options are less there than here for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
good. That's really
yeah,
good.
and it's amazing. Yeah. So, um, before we get to the last question here, I could go on and on. Now, I really hope you feel welcomed enough to come back, because I mean, I love talking about this stuff and all these practical things. If you don't have notes and you're listening and watching to this, I don't know how, because I've got all these little nuggets here that Tim has dropped. And again, his book, The Future Begins with Z, 9 Strategies to Lead Generation Z as They Upset the Workplace. Um, more practical strategies for Gen Zers, like
Yeah.
two or three more that you have, maybe.
Okay. And you mean would we lead Gen Z?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it's good for me, I'll just speak for me, to understand that their view of leadership might be a little different than mine. Mine might be a little bit more traditional in nature just because of my age, and theirs is going to be more today. So, listeners, if you'll think of two columns in your head, I want to outline what I picked up from Gen Z, and I'm going to contrast it with me, okay? So, Gen Z and traditional, let me start with traditional. A traditional view of leadership might be your position gives you the authority to lead. So if you have
Hmm.
a president badge or a CEO badge or a supervisor badge, your position gives you the authority. They might say your connection gives you the authority to lead me. So build a relationship, build a connection. And I think, Eric, you've underscored that today.
Hmm.
Amazed what that connection can do for you. We might say we need to listen to the man at the top. They might say the man at the top needs to be listening to us
Hmm.
because we have visibility on the future. Makes sense, doesn't it? Neither
Makes
one are
sense.
wrong. I'll just give one more. Um, the traditional view might be, um, oh gosh, how would I say this? Um, you need to continue to do what I've asked you to do. And I think they would say the best ideas should win, even if it's from an intern. And I actually agree with that. But it's a shift away from the traditional model. And maybe it's nothing, listeners, that you've thought that you've drawn this conclusion. It's just habit. We just come to
Yeah.
build a habit. And I think we need to break the habit and realize we're definitely in a new day, and I think the new day is more about connection than tradition. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you can do that and understand that and drop your ego at the door, because a
Yeah.
lot of times, even, and again, I'll use my daughter, but I'll use my son as well, because, even though he doesn't work for us, he's
Yeah.
got a really good job, and he does a lot of great things. And there were, even times when they were growing up that I just wanted to be right.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
And I was like,
True.
that's not the right way to go about it. I got to check my ego, because
Yeah.
I'm not always right. And they could have
Very-
a better idea, and they should, because I've raised them to be better than me.
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
what I tell them all the time. Like, you should
So
be better than me.
yes, I hope you stand on my shoulders. I'll make this quick, but I just had an episode with my own daughter, young professional in her 30s, but she said something that was kind of mean over the holidays. And she's that way. She's kind of a little rebel and just out there. And I got angry with her. And so we had a phone conversation afterwards that was a little bit of a butting of heads.
Mhm.
But when I hung up and I went to bed that night, I started thinking to myself that I remembered my father and his daughter, Lisa, my sister,
Mhm.
didn't have a good relationship by the end of his life.
Mm.
And when he passed away, she did not even want to say a thing at the memorial service. She said, "You all go talk. I don't want to say anything." And I thought to myself, I don't want my life to end that way with my daughter. So
Yeah.
I called Bethany up again and I said, "Honey, could we make a deal?" She goes, "Sure." And I said, "Could we talk on the phone once a month for an hour? And I promise you, my goal will just be to listen."
Mm.
She was quiet. And then she said, "Okay." And we've done it. Every month we've gotten on the phone. And my goal is just to listen, not to drop a nugget on her, not to teach her anything. And it's been so rich. But my goal as the older generation has just been to listen to the next gen, knowing that some things are going to be her own opinion and not really accurate, but I don't need to be right. I love what you said. I don't need to be right all the time. And once I gave that up, boy, life became easier for me.
It is. Yeah, it is, when we can do that, for sure.
Yeah,
All right, you ready for the last question we ask
I'm
every
ready.
guest on your best day yet? How would you describe your best day?
Okay. Well, in all honesty, two things happen on my best day. And if it can be together, it's perfect. One is I feel like I've borne fruit, that I was productive. Something happened, that moved me toward my goal. And because my goal is very often the next gen, maybe I spent time getting to coach or mentor them that day, or maybe write something together with them that day. So the story I'd like to leave you with is when my generation was the new kids on the block. Way back in the 1960s, the baby boomers were entering the workforce. You probably remember, I know you remember, Eric, the story of NASA and the moon landing in July of 1969 when Neil Armstrong stepped out on the moon, and it was like a miracle. Well, what most people don't know is when JFK made that speech, actually he made two speeches predicting that we would put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. Well, when he made those speeches, NASA did not even have the technology to do such a thing. It was like way beyond their scope. So they quickly were reaching back to MIT and other places to get the tech and to get the people that understood it. So get this, the young interns at NASA understood the new technology better than the people in their from 45 to 60 that were there. So they traded places. The older generation became sim soups, simulator supervisors, who were coaching the younger ones who became the operators and actually put a man on the moon. Did
Mhm.
you know the average age of the operators that put Neil Armstrong on the moon? 27 years old. And the guy that actually said go, not no, to, pull the trigger, Jack Garman, 23 years old, 1 year out of college. But NASA trusted them. And I'm saying, what if, gosh, I'm getting a little choked up. What if we could do this again?
Yeah.
But now it's us looking back and saying, I want to give you what someone maybe foolishly did for me back in the
Yeah.
day.
Yeah.
And I think this is our time to step up and be those coaches and mentors for the next gen. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to end it right there. And I cannot thank you enough for all the knowledge and the nuggets today. And I do believe in what you're doing. And I really hope to get you back here after this book gets released and chat about this more after I have time to. Boy, I can't wait for this book to come out, and I'm really
Oh,
excited.
thank
And again, folks, the future begins with Z. 9 strategies to lead Generation Z as they upset the workplace. Tim Elmore is the guest. Tim, how do they connect with you?
Well, a couple things. One, my website. You can find the book there and a bunch of other free stuff. So it's timelmore.com, timelmore.com. But you can also go to pre-order the book at thefuturebeginswithz.com, thefuturebeginswithz.com. And there's bonus materials if you pre-order. So I'm hoping it becomes a tool to help everybody just care for, love on, and lead those young adults coming into the workplace. So, Eric, thank you for the privilege of being with you. It's been great today to be
Yeah,
here.
thank you. Thank you very much. And the next time you're in Pittsburgh, do stop in.
Okay, you got it.
All right. That's all for today, folks. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. If you need more information, centerforvictory.com. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll see you soon.